Hi, I'm John Davidson, lead pastor at Evangel Temple. Thank you so much for tuning into the message today. I hope it's a blessing and an encouragement to you. If it is, leave us a note in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. I hope you enjoy this message from God's Word today.
Well, if you got your Bibles today, turn to Acts chapter 2. That's where we're going to go in just a few minutes. Acts chapter 2. But this weekend was a busy weekend for me. I don't know about for you. Anybody else have a busy weekend? Oh my goodness. We had, let's see, I went to the Evangel University graduation on Thursday night. So I don't know if we have any Evangel University grads in the room, but a bunch of people in our church walked across the front and received their degree. And so that's a lot of fun to be able to celebrate them. And then, let's see, we had a Friday morning, afternoon, we had a wedding. A great couple in our church, Ryan and Natalie, got married. And so we were there to cheer them on and celebrate with them. So that was really cool. And then that night, Friday night, went to the Pregnancy Care Center annual banquet. That's always a highlight of the year for Lynette and me to go to that banquet. And the director of the Pregnancy Care Center, Lisa McIntyre, is a part of the ET Church family. So we're super proud of her and the work that they're doing there through the Pregnancy Care Center. And then yesterday, we had a graduation party at the house. And then last night, went to the Warriors Journey annual gala. And so 2 nights in a row, I was in the same banquet hall for 2 different banquets. The first night was for the Pregnancy Care Center, and the second night was for the Warriors Journey. Pregnancy Care Center helps families in our community that are dealing with unplanned pregnancies. And they're doing awesome work there, supporting moms and kids and fathers as well. And then the Warriors Journey helps servicemen and women and veterans and their families with the emotional and mental and spiritual needs that they face, and delivering the gospel of Jesus Christ to people who are very vulnerable and need it most. And so as I was sitting there at those 2 banquets for the Pregnancy Care Center and then the Warriors Journey, I was just so thankful that as a church, we, through our collective missions giving, get to support great local organizations like that. So I just want to say thank you for your generosity. It's making a difference not only here in our community, but around the world. I mean, it's cool that we support missionaries around the world. We support the work of church planting around the world, including in America and even right here in Springfield. And then we get to support these awesome local organizations, too, that are making a real difference, like Pregnancy Care Center, like the Warriors Journey. And by the way, the Warriors Journey, the guy who founded that, Mark Flattery, goes to Evangel Temple as well. And so I'm just super proud of the people in our church who are making such an impact in our community and around the world. And again, thank you for your giving to those organizations. And as I was sitting at those banquets, and even at the Evangel graduation Thursday night, one of the really fun things was that I found myself sitting among friends from Evangel Temple. And when you're at a graduation where there's 500 plus graduates, you want to be sitting with friends. Okay, because we were an hour and a half in before they even start calling the names. Okay, so you want to be sitting with people that you want to spend some time with. And then at the 2 banquets I was at Friday night and last night, we were, again, sitting with friends, but not just random friends, not just any friends. We were sitting with friends from the church. And it really made me realize that life is better with friends. Life is better with Christian friends. Life is better with godly friends, people that you want to be around, who you share the same faith and the same values and same beliefs. And some of you may think you have some really good friends in the room, but you know how to tell if your friend's a really good friend? Move. Okay, so tell your friends, hey, I'm going to be moving in a couple weeks. I need to load the U-Haul, and then see how many of your friends show up, okay? So some of you in the room, I've been there for you. I just want to remind you, some of you in the room, I've been there when you moved, and I just want you to know I'm keeping track, okay, of all those people, and I may call a favor in from you sometime. And so, no, that's how you know who your real friends are. But life is better with friends. And today I want to talk to you about friends. A few years ago, probably 10 years ago now or so, I was in a bookstore and I saw this book that the title of it immediately grabbed my attention. And the book was titled Men Without Friends. Men Without Friends. Now, the title's pretty self-explanatory, but I got this book and I thought, I need to see what's going on with this subject. And so I bought the book and I read it, and what it basically described was that men are having a harder and harder time building friendships. And as I read the book, not only was I, impacted by the information, but I'll tell you, the thing that I walked away with most from the book was I walked away with a feeling of relief, because I thought, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me that's having trouble finding a friend. In different seasons of my life, I found myself in these times where I just didn't have a close friend. And oftentimes it was during a season of my life when everything else was going well. Like my family was doing well, things were going well professionally, I was surrounded by people that I loved and people that loved me, but I realized I didn't have a close friend. And when you don't have a close friend, there's just something missing. So one day I got the bright idea. I don't know where this came to me, but I said, you know what, here's what I need to do. Since I can't find a friend, maybe if I prayed for a friend, God would bring me a friend. Now, that may seem crazy to some of you, but listen, if we believe that God answers prayers and that he wants us in a relationship, if you find yourself without a friend today, pray for a friend. So I prayed, God, give me a friend. And a few weeks later, I was at church, and I went to pick up my daughter. I think she was probably, 4th or 5th grade at the time. I went to pick her up from her kids' church classroom. And as I'm standing there at the door picking her up, there was another dad there picking up his daughter as well. And I'd never seen this guy before, so I introduced myself. I said, I'm John. He said, I'm Jonathan. I said, hey, I think I can remember that. It's great. And so we started talking about our kids, and come to find out, our girls were in the same kids' church class. But not only that, our girls ended up being in the same class during the week at school as well. And so we had all this stuff in common. We were the same age, same stage of life. And before that day ended, as we were walking out of the church, I said, you know what? We need to get connected. We need to, meet each other a little bit, find out a little bit about each other. So we did. We exchanged information, phone numbers, and we connected with each other and became very, very good friends with that couple. Jonathan became my friend. And over the years, God's blessed us with a lot of other great friends from different things that we've been involved in, mostly with our church. Honestly, our best friends have always come from within the church. And at different churches that we've been at, Lynette and I have led small groups. And so not only have we met together in bigger worship services like this, but also small groups in our home. And from those small groups have become friendships that people we do life with, people that we love, people that help to grow us in our faith. And even though I don't even live in the same town as a lot of those people today, I'm partly who I am because of the influence and the impact that those people have made on my life as a part of a smaller group, a smaller faith community that I was a part of. So about 3 years ago, on the kind of tail end of COVID, I came across an article that also caught my attention. The title of it was, American Men Suffer a Friendship Recession. So it was at a time when a lot of people were worried about an economic recession, but this title of this article was American Men Suffer a Friendship Recession. And the article was unpacking some new data that had come out from a recent survey. And the survey found that over the past 3 decades, the number of close friends that Americans have has just plummeted. And what they found out was that in 1990, which, by the way, is the year that my book, Men Without Friends, was written, 1990. In 1990, only 3% of men said they didn't even have one close friend. Now, 3% is not very many, okay? So if you put 100 people in a room, only 3 men out of that 100 people group said, I don't have one close friend. But now 3 decades later, in 2020, the data showed that had risen to 20%. 20% of men in America said they don't even have one close friend. And not only are their friend groups getting smaller and smaller, but they're less emotionally connected to the friends that they do have. And we all know that's not a problem that just men face, right? Women need friends too. And actually the data shows that it's getting harder and harder for women to make friends as well. And then the National Institute on Aging came out with some data that said that people who don't have friends, if you don't have any friends, it's worse for you than if you smoked 15 cigarettes a day. Because people who don't have friends don't live as long as people who do have friends. And then to add to that, this is May. It's Mental Health Awareness Month. And we have a lot of people in our church who are mental health professionals. And every single mental health professional will tell you we have a crisis of mental health happening in our country right now. An absolute crisis. And at the core of the crisis is this issue of loneliness and isolation. People just simply don't have friends. Now, for those of you in the room who are older, and I'm not going to say what is older, you'll have to figure that out. But if you're older in the room, I want you to think a little bit about the friends that you've had over the course of your life, particularly when you were younger. Think about what it meant for you to be a friend and have a friend. And think about the kinds of things that a friendship did for you when you were younger. I mean, there's a really good chance that you were given your first job by a family friend. Or if you're married, that you met your spouse within your friend group. Or that when you wanted to play as a kid, you would go outside in the yard and you would play with other kids from the neighborhood who would gather outside your house and play. And as you got older, you would get together at a local restaurant or coffee shop to gossip and share the latest news about what was going on around town or around the world. And when you wanted entertainment, you'd call your friends and you'd go to the movie theater together. These are the kinds of things we did with our friends. But now in 2024, the utility of friendship is just decreasing. In other words, we don't need friends the way that we used to. If you need a job, we got a website for that, right? You can go online and you can put your information in and you can see all the jobs that are available and you can be hired without even hardly talking to anybody. A lot of younger people today, older people too for that matter, if they want to find a boyfriend, girlfriend, future spouse, they don't find it in their friend group, they find it on a dating app. You want to play a game with somebody? You don't go out in the yard. You get on your phone or you get on your Xbox, you get on your PlayStation, and you can do online gaming with people from the other side of the world. You don't even have to be there in the same room to play together. You want to hear what's going on in the world? There's social media. You want news? There's websites for that. You want music? There's Spotify. You want entertainment? You want movies? There's Netflix and there's TikTok and there's YouTube and there's all that. You want a place to stay? There's Airbnb. If you need a ride somewhere, you don't call a friend, you call an Uber. So we have all of these things available to us, and really what has happened is we've taken everything that we used to get from friends and we've turned it into a business. So younger generations now especially, but I think every generation really, to some extent, is thinking, why do I even need friends? Because the reality is I'm getting along fine without them. And so what's amazing is in our country, we're so advanced. You know, we have technological advances. We're so advanced in every way, and yet we're so lonely. And maybe today you're thinking, man, you're right, I'm lonely. Some of you weren't thinking that when you came in, but now that I'm talking about it, you're like, now that you mention it, thanks, Pastor. Now I realize how lonely I am. And social media has amplified this, right? Because now we're all addicted to Facebook and Instagram anyway, and so we look at those things and we see people posting that they're out doing stuff with people. And one of our first reactions a lot of times is, our first reaction is, why didn't they invite me? Why are they out with that person and not me? And then it's like, man, I wish I had somebody to go to the movies with. I wish I had somebody to go, do something fun with. And so it makes us realize that we're lonely and we're isolated. And what I've learned over the years is that being influential, being popular, being in demand doesn't help loneliness. Because you can be the CEO of a company and be lonely. You can be the captain of the sports team and be lonely. You can be somebody who's surrounded by people at work who work with you or work for you, and they may hang on every word that you say. But at the end of the day, you go home and you realize those people aren't your friends. They don't know you. They don't really know you. And if you needed help at the end of the day, you wouldn't call them. Again, because they're not your friend. So we're lonely. There's a lot of people who were like me a few years ago. They said, man, I just want one good friend. God, just send me one good friend. And if you're feeling that way today, I guess I would say you're right to feel that way, because God created us for relationship. I mean, at the end of the day, God created us to be in relationship and friendship with other people. And that's why when we look at the New Testament, we see that the early church was full of wonderful relationship. Matter of fact, the book of Acts tells us that when people said yes to Jesus and they said yes to the gospel and they came into the church, they didn't just join a church, they joined a community of friends that became a family. Once they were unified in salvation and following Jesus, they became part of a social fabric, a small social fabric that was made up of Christians that sat inside of a larger social structure in the community. And Acts chapter 2 tells us a little bit about what that looked like. So Acts chapter 2, verse 42 says this: all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship and to sharing in meals, including the Lord's Supper and to prayer. A deep sense of awe came over them all, and the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders, and all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and possessions and shared the money with those who were in need. They worshiped together at the temple each day. They met in homes for the Lord's Supper and shared their meals with great joy and generosity. And all the while, praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day, the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. You know, I keep coming back to this passage over the last few weeks because as I read that, as I read the description in Acts of what the early church was like, there's something about that just seems so right. It just seems so good. It seems so inviting and welcoming. That's what I want my life to be like. That's the kind of group of people that I want to do life with. But for many people today, church has become something that we do an hour a week on Sunday morning. It's become an event where we walk in, we worship for an hour, we walk out. And in many churches, you can go from your car to the auditorium, back to your car, and never interact with one single person if you don't want to. And for the other 167 hours a week, you don't think about church, you don't interact with anybody from church, because church is something for you that happens at 8, 9:30, or 11 on a Sunday morning at 2020 East Battlefield right here at ET. But God has created us for more than that. And God has put within us a hunger for more than just an hour of spiritual activity on Sunday morning. He's put a desire within us for a connection with other believers. The book of Acts, in that passage we just read, tells us that the early believers would come together and they would meet in the temple courts. That was kind of like the main attraction. That would be like a church service like this, where a lot of people would come together and worship together. It was a large group of worshipers gathering together to worship and serve the Lord. But then it also says in Acts 2 that they would meet in their homes as well. So they didn't just meet here in the large group, they met in homes in their small groups. But regardless of where they were, whether they were in the large group or the small group, they were the church. Their identification of being a part of a church had nothing to do with where they were meeting or when they were meeting. It was all about who they were. It was a lifestyle for them. It was a way of life. And Acts 2 says that way of life included fellowship, friendship. It included sharing meals together and praying for each other, and even sharing their possessions and sharing their money and their finances to make sure that everybody who was a part of that group was taken care of. And that's very, very different from the kind of individualistic church community that we see today. We've made church about a few minutes on Sunday morning. But friends, church is more than that. As a matter of fact, I would submit to you that if that's all church is to you, if it's an hour on Sunday morning, if you zip in, zip out, don't know anybody else in the church, and all throughout the rest of your week you're totally disconnected from the church, I would just say, you attend church, but I don't know that you're actually part of the church. In Acts chapter 2, verse 46, it says this: the early Christians worshiped together at the temple each day, and then they met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and they shared meals with great joy and generosity, all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And as they did that, look what happened. The very last statement there. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. So as they were living together as the church, not going to church, but they were living together in community, in relationship as the church, God began to grow the church and added to their number people who were being saved. So what we see as we read through the book of Acts is there's this explosive growth that's happening in the early church. As people are hearing the gospel, they're coming to know Jesus, they're being saved, they're being forgiven from their sins. And when they come in, they're not just joining a church organization. They're not becoming a member of a church. They're becoming part of a family. They're becoming part of a community of believers that they share values with, and they share the same beliefs and the same ideals. So as new people are coming into the church, they're going from being outsiders to being friends to being family. So how in the world was the early church able to grow that fast? You know, any organization that grows super fast is always in a little bit of danger because it's so hard to keep track of everybody. And even a business that grows really fast will tell you sometimes the growth can get out there in front of you and you can't even keep up. And then you start losing customers because you can't keep track of them. You can't care for them. How in the world was the early church able to grow at this kind of pace that added thousands and thousands and ultimately millions and millions and millions of people? Well, the reason why is because when new people came into the church, they weren't joining an organization, they were becoming part of the family. They were becoming part of this tight community of faith, and they had instant friends that they shared beliefs and values with. And with friendships like that are that close, it's easy to get in and hard to get out. But see, a lot of churches today are hard to get in and easy to get out. What I mean by that is people will come to church and they walk in the doors of a church and nobody talks to them, nobody introduces themselves to them, the place isn't welcoming, it's not a really great environment, it's hard to get in. And when people come in and they're wanting to connect and they're wanting to be a part of the church, but what they experience is a group of people that doesn't seem like they want them there. It's hard to get in. So you know what? It's easy to get out. They just walk to their car, get in their car and leave and never come back. But we want to be a church that's easy to get in and hard to get out. That means when people come here, they're welcomed, they're seen, they're known, they're loved, they make friends, they find relationship here. And when you get into a relationship like that with people who love you and know you and care about you and check in on you, it's really easy to get in, but it's hard to get out. And so just like the early church was growing at this really rapid pace, honestly, Evangel Temple over the last couple of years has been growing too. We've been growing pretty quickly. And I just want to say to you, if you're here and you're new within the last couple of years, you're an answer to our prayers. This church has been praying for you. And honestly, there's been seeds of prayer planted in this church over the last few decades that I believe people who have been here for a long, long, long time have been praying for you and your family, that you would come find a place where you could plug in right here at ET. So we're glad that you're here. But I want to challenge you. If you just recently started coming to ET, but you haven't found a smaller group of friends to become a part of where you can grow in your faith and in your relationships, if you haven't found that, and you're just attending on Sunday mornings, you're doing something that would be foreign to the early church. They wouldn't have known what it was like to just attend church for an hour on Sunday morning because church was, again, it was their whole life. And following Jesus was everything that they lived for, and the people that they lived with were all following Jesus together. They didn't go to church, they were the church. Yes, they went to worship together. Yes, they went to the temple together, but they did that collectively as the church body. So I want to challenge you today, don't just go to church, become part of the church. And the way that you do that is by building really good friendships with people that go way beyond the hour on Sunday morning that we worship together. And I'm so grateful to be a part of a church like ET that has this long history of wonderful relationships. I mean, I know people in this church who have been a part of small groups in this church. Some of them meet on Sunday mornings or on Wednesday nights or other nights during the week, and some mornings during the week. And there's some of those folks that have been meeting together like that for decades, the same group of people for decades. Their kids have grown up together. They've shared life together. They've gone on vacations together. They care for each other when they're sick and hurting and grieving. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that the church should be doing all the time. These are the kind of relationships, tight relationships, good relationships that we ought to have in the church. That's exactly what the church should be like. And as we grow and expand as a church, one of the things that we want to do a really good job of is giving you great opportunities to connect with other believers in smaller group environments. And so we're doing that through Connect groups. Connect groups are a way for you to come together with people and find trusted friendships and spiritual growth. That's what we want for you, trusted friendships and spiritual growth. And some of you have been attending ET for years, but you're not yet part of a group. And you're faithful here on Sunday mornings, but you just haven't found your people. And I want to challenge you to find your people, to find your tribe, to find that group of people that makes you want to get up on Sunday mornings and you want to come to church, not because you have to, not because it's the right thing for you to do, but because you want to, because you know this is where your people are. And if you're not here, you're going to miss being involved in their life, and you're going to miss the involvement that they have in your life. You need to be a part of a smaller group of people that are challenging you to grow in your relationship with the Lord, challenging you to take one more step towards Jesus. And that's why I want to invite you to be a part of a Connect group. Here's just a few reasons why I think you need to be a part of a Connect group, okay? So these are just a handful of reasons that apply to every single believer. The first one is this: vulnerability, okay? You are vulnerable if you're by yourself. Did you know that? You ever watch those nature documentaries? I was watching one the other day, and the herd is moving in a certain direction. It was antelope or something, and then you see the lions start to stalk them, and the lions have this great way of like surrounding them and flanking the herd, and you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. The herd starts to run, and the poor little baby or the little injured one can't keep up with the herd, and it doesn't take very long before the lions have got that thing. Did you know every single one of us are vulnerable if we're not a part of the herd, if we're not a part of the pack? You need to be a part of a pack. You need to be a part of a group of people that know you, care about you, they know where you're at in life. And listen, if you're vulnerable, here's what I've found. If you're by yourself, if you're a lone wolf Christian, and you say, it's okay, I don't need to be a part of a group, I can do this on my own. Lone wolf Christians eventually become bitter Christians, which eventually become ex-Christians, former Christians. Because it's really, really hard to do this thing on your own. It's hard to serve Christ. It's hard to be faithful to the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's hard to grow in the way that God wants you to grow in your relationship with Him if you're all by yourself. It makes you extremely vulnerable. But you also need to be a part of a group because you need the accountability that comes with that, and so do I. We need to be surrounded by people who know us and are not impressed by us. People who are love us enough to call us out when we're off track. You need that in your life, and so do I. We also need people who are burden bearers. The Bible talks about the fact that we need people to bear our burdens, people to come up under us, help us carry the weight of what's going on in our life. And so you need people like that in your life. But this isn't all serious. You also need people who can help you have fun. Sometimes in church, we get so serious and we're like this, like we're all monks or something, and we're very serious. But you need to be a part of a group, a smaller group of believers that you can have fun with, that you can let your hair down if you have hair, and you can have a good time with, I don't have that problem. But you also need a group of people that you can grow spiritually with, who can challenge you in your walk with the Lord. And you need a place and a people group where you can exercise the spiritual gifts that God's given you. Do you know if you read through the book of Acts, you find that God gives the church all kinds of spiritual gifts, but those are primarily in the book of Acts. Spiritual gifts are not used in the large gathering, they're used in the small gathering. Read the book, I promise you'll find that out. As believers got together in their homes, as they were out in the marketplace, as they were just living life, they were exercising their spiritual gifts. And you need a place where you can exercise the gifting that God has put inside of you. A couple more. You need a group of people that you can serve with. When we serve together in small groups, our hearts are knit together. We become close together because as we're on mission together, God does something in us that draws us together with our friends. And so you can serve together with your group in the church. You can serve out in the community. But find you a group that you can serve with. And then last but not least, you need a group to which you can add value. So yes, you need people helping you have fun. You need people helping you grow spiritually and all of that. But guess what? You need to be doing that for somebody else, because life ain't all about you. It's about what you bring to the table. It's about what you have to offer your brothers and sisters in Christ. So the wonderful thing about being a part of a Connect group is that not only do you get to invest in them, but they get to invest in you. You know, when I was growing up, Christian content was scarce, but Christian community was abundant. I grew up in a church where I knew all kinds of people. Man, we lived life together. But in 2024, Christian content is abundant, but Christian community is scarce. I mean, you can read Christian books, you can listen to Christian music, you can listen to Christian podcasts. You can, from your phone, you can dial up the world's best preachers and you can listen to them all day long. Christian content is everywhere available for you, and Christians today are absorbing and taking in more content than ever. That's a fine thing. It's a wonderful thing. And yet, in the midst of all that, we're more lonely and isolated than we've ever been as Christians, because all of a sudden our Christian community is really, really scarce. But that is not how God created us to live, friends. So I want to challenge you today. What would your life look like if you had a group of people that was pouring into you and a group that you could pour into? A group that you could do life together, and you could know that they are there for you. They're there to help you. They're there to pray for you. They're there to grow with you. And what would our church look like if every single person in our church was a part of a small group community like that? That's why we've created Connect groups, for you to plug in and be a part of. I don't need you to be a part of a Connect group for my sake. I want you to be a part of a Connect group for your sake, so that you can be growing, that you can have people in your life that you can have friendships and relationship with. Every single person needs to find their tribe, because who you walk through life with is one of the most important things about you. You know, Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20 says this: whoever walks with the wise grows wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. You need to walk with the wise. You need to find yourself some wise, godly, wonderful people to walk through life with. You don't want to suffer harm. You don't want to struggle through your life. And Proverbs says one of the greatest ways to get ahead in life is to surround yourself with people who are going the same direction as you are, that believe in God just like you, have the same goals and values and mission in life that you do. One of the most important decisions of your life is who you choose to surround yourself with. I want you to think right now of who your 5 closest friends are. Just take a minute and just list them out in your mind. Who are your 5 closest friends? Some of you right now are like, 5? Like, I've got 2 or I've got 1. That's okay. Who are your closest friends? You know, it's been said that you will become an average of your 5 closest friends. So if that's true, what does that say about your life? What will your life look like in 10 years if you become an average of your 5 closest friends? Will you become a more loving person? Will you become a more generous person? Will you become a better son or daughter or husband or wife or brother or sister or friend? If you surround yourself with the right people, you will. One of the things that we believe in this church is that people are our passion, and all the time we find ourselves praying for the people of this church. And that's why we want to put this opportunity in front of you to join a group, because your life is important. Your life matters. Your soul matters. It matters so much that we want you to be connected with other people. You need to find Christian community. And so we're putting Connect groups in front of you. You can join a Connect group even today before you leave that will meet on a day and a time that's convenient for you. You can find you a group of people that you're going to be able to walk through life with, who can be your friends and really become family to you. But listen, we're putting the opportunity in front of you, but it's the responsibility of every single believer to take advantage of the opportunity. I can't force you into a Connect group. I wish I could, because I know that it would be good for you, but I can't force you to do that. You got to make the decision on your own that you care enough about Christian community to be a part of a Christian community. And by the way, coming here on Sunday mornings for an hour is awesome, but you need more than that. And the world, I'm telling you, the world will beat you down. It really will. And you need people who can be in your life all week long, helping you, encouraging you in your faith. One of the ways that you can get involved in groups is by scanning this QR code that's on the screen, or you can scan the QR code that's on the seat back in front of you, okay? So all of those QR codes will take you to a place where you can look at some of our Connect groups that are available. And if you're not a techie person, I totally get it, totally understand. What you can do is, as you're leaving the service today, we're going to have people out at our Connect Center, which is to the left out in the lobby on your way out, and you can drop by there, and they have TV screens and iPads, and they'll show you our Connect groups that are available, and then you can request information, and the leader of that group will reach out to you in just the next few days, give you some information about that group, and offer you an opportunity to connect if that group is a fit for you. And listen, we know that finding friends it can be hard. Connecting into a new group of people can be challenging. It can be intimidating. It takes a big step of faith. It takes a lot of courage to connect to a group of people. And you may be sitting here today knowing intellectually, like, man, I need to be more connected to my church, but it's weird. I don't know people. I don't know how to connect. Scan the QR code or go to the Connect Center, and I promise you, we'll start to connect you with people that you can do life with. We'll try to make it as the least awkward that we possibly can for you to meet new people. And if you check out a group and maybe you go attend the group once or twice and you're like, I don't know that I really fit in this group of people. It's okay. You don't have to plug in there. You can try a different group. That's why we got lots of different groups available, okay? So you're not bound to plug into any one group. We want you are so important. Your connections and relationships are so important that it's okay if you need to try out 2 or 3 different groups to find a place where you can plug in and connect. That's okay. The important thing is find a place to connect. You're worth it. Your spiritual life is worth it. Your friend life, your relationships are worth it. It's worth you finding a place to plug in. Don't do life alone. Do it in a group. My challenge to you would be, don't leave today until you at least check it out. Okay, check out our groups. There's going to be people at the door. They're going to be handing out cards to you on the way out that will also have a QR code on it. Please at least just humor me. Take one of those cards, stick it in your Bible, stick it in your pocket. Even if you're unsure, say, I don't know, who knows? I might want to connect to a group later. Take it home, stick it on your refrigerator on a magnet or something. I want you to be connected.
Thanks again for watching the service today. I hope it was an encouragement to you. We'd love to hear from you, so if you'd like to leave a note in the comments and let us know what you thought about the message, we'd love that. And if you're ever in the Springfield, Missouri area on a Sunday morning, we'd love to have you join us for church. You can attend our 8 a.m. classic service, or you can join us for church at 9:30 or 11.